Hi math students, welcome to Project 5, Lesson 22. Again, we have 5 questions, so we're going to jump right in and get started. This time we're dealing with solving systems of equations by elimination. Okay, so again, we have a list of possible criminals, and this time the x values that we're given are for the height of the criminals, and the y values that we're given are for the weight of the criminals. And we're given two equations. 4x plus 3y equals 751, and 12x minus 6y equals a negative 222. Okay, so again, remember we're dealing with elimination, and go ahead and erase that. I'm going to rewrite these down here so that we can get a better look at possible answers. So we have 4x plus 3y equals 751, and 12x minus 6y equals negative 222. So elimination is a way to combine these equations to isolate one variable, or to make it so we are only dealing with one variable. Basically, if we have two unknowns, so two variables that we don't know what they represent, we need two equations to solve. If we can eliminate one of those variables, then we only need one equation to solve. So one equation can solve one variable. You need two equations to solve two variables, three equations to solve three variables, etc. So here we've got x and y that we don't know. So we need two equations, which fortunately we have. And we've already talked about graphing. Now we're talking about elimination, and then in the next lesson we'll talk about another method for solving systems of equations. So there's always more than one way to skin this cat. Okay, so let's scroll down, and it says to eliminate the variable y, what steps can you take? So basically, I want to find some way to add these equations together to get rid of y. And in the bottom equation, I've got a negative 6y, and in the top equation, I've got a positive 3y. So if I were to simply multiply that top equation by a positive 2, it would give me a 6y that I could combine with a negative 6y, and the y term would go away. So when I do that, I'm going to get 8x plus 6y equals, and that will be 1502. If you multiply one term by a constant out here, you've got to multiply them all. So that's why I multiplied the 751 by 2 as well. Okay, and then I've still got that same 12x minus 6y. So 12x minus 6y equals negative 222. Okay, now I simply add these together. 8 plus 12 is 20x. Negative 6y, or excuse me, positive 6y minus 6y is 0y, so I don't even need to write that. And so 20x equals, and then I'm going to add these two together, which is essentially subtraction. So 1502 minus 222 is going to give me, I think, 1280, but let's just be sure. Yep, okay, so 1280. Okay, and now to solve for x, I divide both sides by 20. And when I do that, I get x equal 64. Okay, so it took it quite a ways here, but all they actually asked for in this first question was, what is the first step? So the first step was to multiply the first equation by 2. And then we added them together. Okay. Let's see. Oops, I marked the wrong one there. We don't want to multiply the second equation by 2. We want to multiply that first equation by 2. So make sure you're marking the right one. Okay. So I think we've actually probably answered the second one as well. Let's scroll down. The height, remember x was the height. So right here we can just enter 64 because we solved for that. All right. And based on that x equals 64, if we go up, we can see that we've got 2 possible culprits, Brooke and Jeremy. So let's scroll down and we'll mark those. Brooke and Jeremy are our possible culprits. Okay, so now our job is going to be to narrow it down by solving for y. Okay, so I'm going to just erase these because I want to keep my equations there. Okay, so basically what I want to do is solve for y. I know x is 64, and the next problem says find the weight of the guilty suspect. And remember, weight is represented by y. So I've got multiple options for solving for y. I can plug x into here, here, or here. I've got 3 different equations that are all going to help me solve for y, whichever one is easiest. And so I think I'm actually going to choose this 751. I'm going to say 4 times 64 plus 3y equals 751. So 64 4 times is 256. If I subtract 256 from both sides, I get, this goes to 0, I get 3y equals 495. And then if I divide both sides by 3, the 3 cancels out on the left, and I get y is 165. Okay, so I know that's one of my answers, and then I just have to say, okay, it's got to be between Brooke and Jeremy. So which one of those has a weight of 165 and a height of 64? Brooke is my culprit here. Let's go ahead and mark that. So right there, Brooke is my culprit. So Brooke and 165 when I go down here. Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have this question. Let's get it so we can read it here. I'm just going to have to erase this. No big deal. Describe how you would identify the suspect who committed the crime by first eliminating the variable x from the system of equations instead of y. How does this change your answer, if at all? Okay, So if we go back up here to look at our equations, if I wanted to eliminate x instead of y, which is totally fine, I would go ahead and I would multiply this first equation by a -3. Because when I do that, I'll get a -12 here. And when I add -12 plus 12, I get 0. So it would look like -12x minus 9y equals, and then I have to take 751 times a -3, and that gives me a -2,253. Okay, and if I want to then add 12x minus 6y equals -222, this goes to 0, so I'm going to bring it down to one equation and one variable. -15y equals, and if I add those two together, I get -2,475. If I divide both sides by a -15, I get y equals a positive 165. If I plug that back in to any of these equations, I will find out that x equals 64. So it does not change it at all. When you type the answer to this, I would recommend that you say, to eliminate x, you would need to multiply the first equation by -3. When you do that, you'll find that the equations combine so that you can solve for y. You get y equals 165 pounds. When you plug 165 back into any of those equations, you will find that x equals 64. So it does not change the answer at all. It doesn't matter which one you choose to eliminate. You should get the same answer either way. So what I like to do is look for the easiest one to eliminate. And I think in this case, the easier one to eliminate was eliminating the y variable, because then it didn't give you such a big number. That 751 became 1502. It really wasn't that big of a deal. Either way, they're both pretty easy to eliminate, but you always want to look for the easiest way because it minimizes mistakes. Okay, that is all I have for lesson 22. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and I will look forward to your answers here, and please join me back for lesson 23. Thank you.